If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, second hour, very much looking forward to. Coming up in 30 minutes from now, Aaron Moore, who is going to be with us. A great contributor up on the website at VSiN.com, and has some great pieces, including a college baseball tournament preview as tournament play starts on Friday. And very much looking forward to next month, as we will hit the road. Stormy's going to come back for 2 weeks, and then she gets to take off yet again. This time I am in tow, though, as we will be out in Omaha for the College World Series. So make sure you come and join us. We're going to be out at Rocco's. It's going to be a ton of fun. So if you're out in the area, say what's up. Money Moves and Follow the Money. We will be live from Omaha for the College World Series next month, June 12th to the 14th. Very, very excited and looking forward to what Mitch and Paul have in store. Not only will they be doing Follow the Money, but they will have a special Saturday show that weekend as well. And that, of course, the week and weekend of Father's Day. So looking forward to that. All right, so with that, not as excited about seeing what has transpired for the Boston Red Sox. And this is where I wanted to start because this is not the sexiest of pitching matchups. But I do think when you look at this, Mark, that there is I would say opportunity to potentially go against the Red Sox with some consistency here. Brewers are up to a $1.48 favorite. Lineup does not look good since Bregman has hit the injured list. Brian Bayo is going to get the start here today. He has not pitched particularly well either. I think you can make a very strong argument that a $1.48 with Freddie Peralta on the hill is relatively cheap. Peralta has pitched pretty strong. Underlying metrics are pretty strong. I don't know why I wouldn't just take my crack against the Red Sox and Bayo yet again here tonight.
Yeah, I can't fight you off on that, John. I would agree with you. You look at Boston, they've lost 4 in a row. Favorable pitching matchup with Peralta on the mound. You mentioned it in terms of, right around, minus 148 in terms of the Brewers right now, taking them. They're home. The Red Sox offense is not productive. Boston fans are besides themselves about the way that this team looks right now. And then you throw in the Bregman IL stint, which was long rumored, finally did happen. Boston put them on there. Yeah, how do you not take the Brewers minus the 148?
Yep, or I think for me, going as well, because Bayo has been, as we're kind of referencing here, he has not been good. And some of the actual numbers for him when you're looking at it, 4.08 ERA, but a 5.50 expected ERA, fielding independence floating around 4.80, nearly 5, doesn't strike guys out, has very terrible command. When you look at some of the contact numbers, well up there too in terms of hard hit rate. This is a guy that I think is going to be a subpar pitcher as we move forward. We've seen some of the issues too, and I think this is going to be one where if you look at it, laying a half run in the first 5 with Peralta and the Brew Crew, that's going to be at the top of the list for me. Anything before I selfishly take over, any of the games that you were really looking forward to? I know that there's some really great pitching matchups that are on the card here today.
Yeah, I'll give you one that I like. A game that got moved from 7:00 tonight to 1:15 this afternoon East Coast time, and that's the White Sox on the road in Flushing taking on the Mets. Smith and Canning, those are your starters, and Griffin Canning's pitched really, really well for the New York Mets. That pitching lab that the Mets have put together for their organization have done a great job revitalizing a lot of guys' careers. Look at what Canning's been able to do. They worked wonders last year with Minaya, even though he's been banged up this year. Montas has been hurt this year, but they're looking to do the same after signing him to a 2-year contract. I'm going to actually take the White Sox plus the 1.5. Minus 105. If you look at the context, first off, the Mets have struggled a little bit offensively, as this year. Smith has pitched well for Chicago. There's no doubt. And you look at the Mets have struggled a little bit offensively. The White Sox have been pesky in this series. They led for the majority of game 1-0. You get the walk-off after the sac fly by Soto in the 8th inning. You get the walk-off sac fly by Lindor in the 9th to win that game. They were pesky once again last night. I'm not telling you Chicago's going to win the game. I think the White Sox in what should be a relatively low-scoring game this afternoon. Game got moved from the 7:00 window to the 1:00 window. I would take the White Sox plus the 1.5.
All right. Man, yes, I think the White Sox been a little plucky over the last 5 days or so, Took that series from Texas.
They're a bad team. They're they're 21 games under 500. But I look at it and I think it's more of a case of a lack of confidence in the way the Mets have looked offensively right now. That's all.
Yep, and that's very fair. I wanted to go here. There's a couple of interesting ones here. Let's go to the actual pitching matchups that I think a lot of people are going to be somewhat excited about. First off, it's always exciting when Paul Skeens takes the hill, so let's hit this really quickly.
No doubt.
Zach Gallen gets the start. At D-backs, though, up to about $1.35 favorite here with Gallen getting the start. This is notable because we saw opening on the overnight some spots at -125, so it's somewhat surprising to see the market move against Paul Skeens in this regard. Having said that, though, there's a couple of reasons one would assume why. First off, Skeens just not getting any support when he's going out there and pitching in these contests. He finally got a win, snapped a 4-start losing streak for Pittsburgh when he was out last time against the Milwaukee Brewers. He pitched well, 6 innings, 4 hits. 8 strikeouts. He's actually got 17 strikeouts over his last 2 starts, Mark, and that's actually one of the interesting notes here is that Skeens' strikeout numbers have been down this season, and not just in terms of just pure strikeouts, strikeout rate, whiff rate, chase rate, those were all down after last year. Maybe he's starting to find that little tick back. But on the other end, I don't know why you'd be confident in laying -135. Again, the D-backs are at home. Maybe we got a little too cheap. Their pitching's abysmal. We saw their bullpen blow up again yesterday. I just don't know if you trust Gallen. This is a tough matchup, but Skeens is facing a pretty good lineup here. What do you make of the market moving against Paul here?
Yeah, I would actually lean away from the market movement. I'd lean towards Skeens, even though you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're -69 run differential. They're not particularly good. You mentioned snapped the personal 4-game losing streak with him being on the mound and they've not done a great job of supporting him. Maybe a little bit more of an uptick. The league has obviously made an adjustment to Skeens a little bit at the start of the year. Not that he has been bad this year. He's just not necessarily been, as dominant with the strikeout numbers as we saw a year ago. I don't know if I'd necessarily trust Arizona as a -135 favorite with Gallen on the mound. And I'd look at probably leaning toward Pittsburgh and taking the Pirates plus the 114 with Skeens on the mound.
Yeah, Gallen numbers for those who don't know him, 5.25 ERA, 4.64 fielding independent for Gallen. His last start on the road against St. Louis, 5 2/3, 4 earned runs. He has given up 14 earned in his last 3 starts, Gallen has. He's been absolutely – it's just weird. Like 2 years ago, he had those weird home road splits where he was dominant at home and couldn't find anything away from home. But still, this is supposed to be one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball coming up, and it is completely fallen apart for Zach Gallen, and he's been an absolute nightmare for this team this season every single time out. All right, let's hit a couple more of these again. What about, not in your neck of the woods, but your Bronx Bombers in a series with my Angels? Schmidt's getting the start. Yusei Kikuchi. This one actually heading in the Angels' direction. We're looking at -155 in favor of the Yankees, 8.5 the total, shaded to the over at -122 or so. I think that you can make the case, and this is one thing I've been trying to do with the Yankees anytime Schmidt gets the start, because I thought there were some underlying metrics that told you, look, the guy's pitching a little bit better than what he's given credit for, and he is, I think, evened out a bit. The guy's still good for about 2 or 3 earned runs in a start over the course of about 5 innings or so, so we'll see if the Angels can get to him here, but he should be able to put the Yankees in position to get this thing done. What do you make of the price tag on New York on the road in Anaheim?
Yeah, I would obviously lean Yankees. It has nothing to do with the fandom or who I grew up with or who I grew up rooting for, John. But I would lean Yankees. I actually like the over in the game, and it's juiced to the over. You hit upon it a little bit right now, sitting at -122, over 8.5. I think the Yankees are going to be able to score on Kikuchi, and I think the Angels are going to be able to score on Clark Schmidt, who, has battled injuries. I don't think he's necessarily all the way there. You mentioned it, that he's good for 2 or 3 earned runs allowed over 5 innings of work. I think that's a fair assessment when you were looking or assessing at what Clark Schmidt has been this year so far for the Yankees. They think he's got a fair amount of upside. Has he found his groove? As of yet, he has not. We talked last week, the Angels were hot as a firecracker, your team. They've cooled off a little bit, but offensively, they have a tendency to be able to get going a little bit. I think you're going to get some runs tonight in this one with these 2 starters on the mound. I think the Yankees are going to be able to get after Kikuchi. I think the Angels are going to be able to score on Clark Schmidt. I'd go over the 8.5 at -122.
Look out. I don't know. Yusei Kikuchi, since the start of May, we have 28 1/3 innings of work and a 1.91 ERA, and my man has been untouchable.
I get it. I understand that. I get it. And maybe it's a little bit of arrogance from a New York perspective on the Yankees and their lineup. You're right. It goes against the way that he's been pitching as of late, and the way that he's been pitching since we hit the month of May. But I think you're going to get some offense tonight. I think you're seeing the market move toward in that direction as well, seeing minus 122. I think you're going to get runs between these two teams.
I also am giving you a hard time because some of the underlying numbers, his FIP's like pretty much 4 across the board. So Kikuchi's probably getting away with some stuff over the course of this. I think any sort of success that this Angels teams have, whether it's individual players or as a team, it is probably fake in some extent. And I think there's a little bit of fraudulence when it comes to what has gone on so far with Kikuchi. All right, really quickly, Dodgers and Guardians, also pretty interesting here. Clayton Kershaw is going to take the mound yet again. Kershaw in the first start of the season for him, pretty uneven in terms of what he was putting out there. And the last time out looked a little bit better in a very short stint, 2 innings. So what do we make of just small sample size and all over the place? And he's a $1.70 favorite on the road against the Guardians.
Yeah, it's tough to take Kershaw as a $1.70 favorite, but it's easy to take the Dodgers as a $1.70 favorite because I just think they're a better baseball team. Offensively, they've scored 310 runs so far this year. You look at it, pale in comparison. You look at the Cleveland Guardians, they've only scored 216. You can't really compare the two offenses and the two lineups, John, at all. Do I trust Clayton Kershaw? I do not. I just trust the Dodgers team on the whole, and I think that's why they're getting the love in the marketplace, and that's why they're a $1.70 favorite sitting here on this Wednesday.
All right. We'll have more on baseball, too. It's a pretty good slate. A couple of other games. It's a full slate, too. I mean, every single team, much, I think every team's in action right now. And that game just got started between the Dodgers and the Guardians. So looking forward to all of this as it gets started here this morning. When we come back, we'll have a lot of news when it comes to just the world around us. We'll hit Stephon Diggs a little bit. Not really. But we do have to get to the National Football League and tie this into some bigger markets in the NFL, because very much looking forward to some of the news coming out, including one team that is off to a slow start almost every single year, but maybe this is the year where it turns around.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes, very excited to talk to Aaron Moore about what's going to happen in the college. I don't know, is the official just college baseball tournament, right? Because then we call it like the NCAA tournament. No, College World Series is at the end of it. The World Series is the tournament at the end. Okay, don't fall into that trap, Ortega. I'm talking to somebody that our audience cannot hear. Either way, Marc Malusis is a man that all of our audience can hear. I'm very glad there's a strong power dynamic when it comes to producers. Back in the day, and Marc, I think, you're a radio guy. You would understand this. I came up.
Yeah.
I started as a producer. I had a microphone. I could speak. Our audience could hear me. Here is not the case. So Ortega, he just has to just sit back and take it. He can never respond and defend himself, and it's something that I very much like because, as we all know, producers, their opinions do not matter for the most part.
Really? They don't matter whatsoever. See, it depends on if you no, I know you're joking around, but it depends. I always found it depends on who you're working with, whether or not they're open to the idea of the producer hopping on the airwaves, hopping on the microphone, or whether they're against it. And then sometimes producers can get a little bit overzealous. Like, this, John. Sometimes the host, if you're doing a co-host, but if you're doing a show solo, like you mentioned that you did the show Monday solo, right? And you do other work as well. When you're getting into a rhythm and then all of a sudden you get a voice out of nowhere, it just kind of breaks up your rhythm to what you're trying to emphasize or get home.
Yeah, take notes, Ortega.
Does Ortega do that sometimes?
Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. It really is just odd. Maybe it's just odd Tom Cruise facts here and there, which, by the way, mounting reviews and evidence from some that would say the latest Mission Impossible underwhelming. So I don't know about that. I will still have to go and see it. But the fact that Paulie Howard was not impressed very much, I was like, oh, boy, that's not great. Because I feel like Paul Howard loves Tom Cruise, as does Mitch Moss, and neither of them on Follow the Money really liked it. You can tune in for their full reviews coming up a little bit later today. All right, we do have some news in the world of sports. You, Mark, seem pretty fired up about this. We got news that the PGA Tour eliminated starting stroke format at the Tour Championship. It's eliminating the starting strokes format from the Tour Championship in its latest attempt to make its season-ending tournament more compelling, it would seem. You seemed like you were somebody that really did like this for the most part.
Yeah, like I think about Kiss, not the band, right? My dad used to always talk about Kiss, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? Like this to me was a dumb idea that finally the PGA Tour did away with, right? The idea of now, you have your top 30 golfers that go out there and qualify for the FedEx Cup. Just have a traditional 72 holes, right? I don't need to go in. You don't need to confuse, especially with LIV and everything that goes along with it. PGA Tour going out there trying to hammer home stars. You want to make it as competitive as humanly possible. Don't confuse the golf audience before the tournament ever gets going to where, depending on where you are in the standings, is the lead that you have going into it. Like, just do it a traditional. So this, to me, is common sense. Like, sometimes common sense doesn't rule. Like, this, to me, makes perfect and complete, utter sense. Just like every other golf tournament, just like we talked about the Memorial earlier on the show, right? Nobody's having an advantage going into it. The goal is to qualify for the FedEx Cup and then have a traditional 72-hole tournament, and whoever's the best at the end of the 72 holes wins the FedEx Cup. That's it. I mean, that's it. Don't confuse us. And finally, the PGA Tour logic wins out.
Yep. For those who know, too, for those who don't remember, last year, Scotty Scheffler, world number one, started the tournament 10 under as the FedEx Cup season-long points leader. He was 20 under over 72 holes on his own. Overall scoring total 30 under, 4 strokes better than Colin Morikawa, who had to start at 4 under. So, again, kind of takes away from that. I should also note, buried in this story, I don't know if this matters to you or not, worth noting, though, that it sounds like maybe the Tour is also weighing whether to relocate the Tour Championship to another golf club after 2027. They said that the East Lake Golf Club would remain as part of the rotation for the event. That making anything to you at all, or is it just not? It doesn't matter as long as we're changing the format. Yeah, okay.
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, listen, they move around the U.S. Open, they move around the PGA, the Masters is always going to be at Augusta. They move around the Open Championship across the pond, right? Why can't you all of a sudden? Why does it have to be cemented in one spot? I guess when you have traditional things like the Memorial, but I think it would add even a little bit more intrigue. See, I think for the PGA right now, with a lot of their stars leaving for LIV here, John, I think it's a case of trying to, and Scheffler's great, all right, but and Rory, we understand that Jack's upset that he's not playing the Memorial this weekend and how all that went down. But I think it's a matter of building guys up and making it bigger than it is. So, and making every event as big as it possibly can be. So with that being said, why not go out there and move the event around and have it at all these great golf courses across the country and do it that way instead of having it cemented in just one spot every single year. That to me makes sense as well.
So in the NFL, as we transition to the next little bit of news, we didn't get to this yesterday. We have talked a lot about I guess, kind of a fake stalemate between Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like, it sounds like both parties are going to consummate the relationship at some point, but it just hasn't really happened. In a different sense, the Cincinnati Bengals and Trey Hendrickson, of course, have really stalled out with their relationship as well. And we're hearing more from the Bengals in terms of potentially they're going to pay Hendrickson. But also, the other storyline for this team, Mark, is their slow starts. They have been abysmal at the start of these regular seasons. There's always been something injury-related. But a lot of people are starting to point to the preseason. Now, we are very close to the preseason getting started. Jamar Chase said the other day, in jest, that it sounds like they need to play in the preseason in terms of the way that these Bengals teams have started. If you look at it in Zach Taylor's 6 seasons, they have been 1-11 when you're talking about that in the preseason, and they've been through multiple 0-2 starts to start the year. So does that really matter that much, playing in these preseason games? I'm actually more of, please just have an offseason where one of your guys is not coming off of an injury or doing something on offense, and it seems like maybe you won't be distracted, but maybe getting some meaningless snaps where Joe Burrow hands the ball off a couple of times will allow them to get ready to go once the regular season begins.
I don't know if it's necessarily the preseason, John. It's got to be something, though, because, last year I think they lost to the New England Patriots week 1, right? And Mayo got his first victory as Patriots head coach, and they were decided favorite in that one and knocked a lot of people out of
Yep.
Yeah, knockout pools. People were tearing them up left and right, and that was a home loss against the New England Patriots. So something's got to happen, because here's the deal, what we do know, based on everything we've seen with Taylor and Burrow in Cincinnati, when Burrow has been healthy, is they finish the season really strong. They're traditionally slow starters. So if you're Taylor this offseason, you got to go to work. I don't know if it's necessarily that you need to see more burn during the preseason, but maybe it's something that you need to do during the course of training camp differently to get this team physically ready to go at the start of the season. Not that you need to be playing your best football at the start of the year. You want to be playing your best football at the end of the year, but you don't want to give away games. What Cincinnati can't go out there and continue to do is put themselves in a deficit early on in the season, losing very winnable games that they need to find a way to win because they are, say, ill-prepared or not physically ready, or why are they not playing particularly well? Why does the offense not look in sync? All of these things, like the Hendrickson stuff is, listen, they've got to get him signed. We know how ridiculously good he is as an edge rusher in the National Football League. There's no question about it. And they are at a stalemate, as you mentioned. But there's got to be some sort of a reason. And that's something I think Taylor and company needed to do to go to work on in the offseason is let's figure out why. Why is this transpiring? I don't know if it's necessarily I need to see more burn in preseason. Maybe it's something they need to do over the course of training camp to try and negate some of these slow starts.
Pretty average in terms of strength of schedule, floating around 17th when you rate their strength of schedule by opponent win total in the betting market. If you look at this team in terms of some of their top-tier players, Joe Burrow, third choice to win MVP on the odds board. Jamar Chase, second choice to win Offensive Player of the Year behind Saquon Barkley. Win total's 9.5 over -150. Offensively, I don't really have any questions. It's just about a defense that was very below average last year. Do you think they've made enough changes? If I tell you now they signed Hendrickson, is this a team that can win 10-plus games and make it back to the postseason?
I think it is. Now, do I think the defense is going to define them? I do not. I think what's going to define them is what we all know defines Cincinnati Bengal football, and that's Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and what they can do offensively throwing the football. I mean, that's going to define Cincinnati as long as Joe Burrow is upright and playing quarterback for the Bengals. But the question is, similar in nature when you see other teams in the National Football League, is, okay, can my offense put myself into a position like what you used to see with Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, to where we're able to help out our offense based on the score on the scoreboard, where we're up to scores and all of a sudden a team can't go to the ground game and be balanced offensively, to where then that can help out my pass rushers, where I limit what the team can do against me offensively. So do I think they're good enough defensively? They're not I wouldn't look at this where a defense is all of a sudden going to define them, John, but I think defensively they've made some adjustments. I like what they did in the NFL draft to think that they're going to be improved enough, but what's going to define them is what we all know is going to define them, and that's Joe Cool.
Yeah, you can't, or you don't. You don't have to. I don't need you to be the Broncos, right? The Broncos are probably going to be the best defense in the NFL. I just need you to not be vomit-inducing awful, right? Like that's what they were at times throughout the regular season last year. And this team, it's funny because I lost quite a bit at times. There were a couple of teams that I was failing to get a mark on last year, and the teams that I was the worst on were games involving the Bengals and games involving the Commanders. Because I was too high on the Bengals because of their offense, and I was too low on the Commanders just overall. And this team, man, they're good enough on offense, but the defense, very, very poor. Just creep back to average, and you're going to have a shot. All right, let's take our break here. When we come back, we hit the diamond. College baseball tournament time begins on Friday. Aaron Moore joins us to get his thoughts on the futures market and more here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
No better time than the playoffs to check out all of the sharp plays at sharpplays.com, where real bettors go to get ahead since 2011. Sharp Plays has been locked in on what the real pros are betting. Bets that are actually moving the markets. When you sign up, you'll gain access to not only the plays, but all of Sharp Plays' powerful AI tools and betting reports, plus real-time alerts and updates via email or X. Perhaps most importantly, betting logs are live and available to see on the site each and every day. Don't take my word. check the receipts when you head over to sharpplays.com. That is sharpplays.com. Speaking of sharp, the word is synonymous with our next guest, Aaron Moore. You can follow him on Twitter at PubRelationProf. He joins us via the Progressive Guest line. VSiN.com is the spot to check out the work for all of us, including Aaron, who's got a great write-up on the college baseball tournament, which is about to get started on Friday. So, Aaron, I appreciate it. Let's start with this question here. The tournament bracket is set. Is there a team that is worth adding to the portfolio now that we know what the paths to the championship look like?
Well, JVT, if you're going to look at it right now and you don't have something in your portfolio, you got to start with the SEC. I'm just a firm believer in talking about college baseball. It begins and it ends with the SEC. We want to bet plus dogs. We want to look for long shots. We want those tickets that might pay off big with a little investment up front. I just don't think it happens in this tournament because it's going to be so dominated by the SEC and their 13 teams. So with that being said, now you have to look at what SEC teams might have some odds that make them playable at this point. I think you can still play Vanderbilt in that 9-1 range. They're the number one overall seed. 9-1 is obviously a pretty good number. So if you want to come in, I think you come in with a Vanderbilt. Myself, who I like and I write about in the article, is LSU. You can still get them at 6-1. If you look at a team like Arkansas, the number one team on the odds board, 4-1 in that ballpark, that's very low. I just would encourage you to do rollover parlays throughout the tournament with something about 4-1. But LSU 6-1, Vandy 9-1, Auburn even 10-1, with the idea of maybe monetizing that as the tournament moves into Omaha. Those are possibilities.
Aaron, would you bet the SEC to win the tournament sitting right now? You mentioned minus 295.
Mark, I would. And once again, I'd love to say, hey, take this plus 700 bet to win because everybody would be happy. But at minus 295, you're laying an extreme amount of juice. No debate about that. However, I still think that's a good number. If you look at the true probability of minus 295, it's around 60%. I think if you look at this, the team who wins, being from the SEC, is probably closer to 70-75%. So when this tournament starts on Friday, move a week or so into the super regionals, and you look at all those SEC teams still standing, you're going to look back and say, wow, I could have gotten minus 295. That was a bargain. So it seems like a big number to pay right now, but I do think it pays off in a couple weeks when the tournament gets to Omaha.
Aaron Moore with us again, VSiN Contributor, talking a little bit about the college baseball tournament that is set at this point right now. And to give Aaron kudos for last year as well, Aaron, that was an angle that you had given us to us too. SEC to win the tournament, and, of course, Tennessee, your reigning champion. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let me ask, if we look outside of the box, whether it be a team that can threaten to actually win this whole thing or a team that can make a run to Omaha, is there some team outside of the SEC, ACC powers that you believe could be dangerous and make its way through this to, at the very least, get to the College World Series?
I think that conversation right there, JVT, starts with Coastal Carolina. They're a very good team. They have Caden Bodine, who's a fantastic catcher. That we've seen Coastal Carolina make the College World Series in the past. So I think that would be the team to look at. A lot of people are going to throw out Southern Mississippi. J.B. Middleton is a fantastic pitcher. I think they are on the periphery of making the 8 teams that go into Omaha. Even the Big Ten, which sounds crazy after college football season and basketball season, the Big Ten is even on the periphery as it comes to getting those 8 teams into Omaha. So, as I said, I'll just keep going back to it. You just have to be leery going against the SEC. And if you think about, we talk about in golf, do you fade the favorite? That's often something you do in golf. It's difficult to fade the favorite in college baseball. The SEC teams make up 20% of that field. So anybody who gets there outside the SEC and the ACC, obviously, who sent 4 teams to Omaha last year, it's going to be a long shot because I expect 4, 5, maybe even 6 teams from the SEC to get there.
Aaron, how about the idea about parlaying? People love playing parlays, same game parlays. We've seen it. What about when you're looking at regional winners?
So, Mark, I am very anti-parlay, and what I don't like pile-on parlays, where you just keep putting legs upon legs to get some juicy number. That's how I normally approach betting. In this case, I think you have to look at parlays about teams to win their region, and these being the favorite, the host teams. There are some books that allow you to parlay regional winners. DK is one of them. I think that's a really good play to make. As I'm saying, I like the SEC to get there. Obviously, SEC teams come with a price, so you can parlay some of these winners. And I think you can make a number of different combinations. And what I've done, I've got Texas and Auburn. I got that ticket to plus 116. Arkansas and Texas to both win their regions at minus 113. Tennessee and Vanderbilt, I put those two teams together. I got minus 11. You can throw LSU and Texas together. LSU, you're getting them at minus 425. So even with a leg or two, it's still going to be hefty. But in this situation, Mark, I do like the parlays. If you feel confident with these teams to win the regions and the odds board and all those minus numbers say so, I think if you put them together in a parlay, it's a wise move.
Aaron, are there any games initially on Friday that have stuck out to you?
Yeah, the one of them I look at is East Tennessee State. I think you can get them at a pretty good number, about minus 105. That team to beat Louisville, that one I like. East Tennessee State is a very good offensive team. And if you look at JVT, the first round, you're going to get 1 versus 4. Very, very rarely does 4 win. Evansville did it last year. Oral Roberts did it a couple years ago. That 1 versus 4 is going to be so dominated by the host team, and that's what helps the host team move through the region, because in that first game, they don't have to throw their number 1 starter. You usually get 2 or 3 beating each other up. I do like East Tennessee State in that situation, and if we look at any kind of long shot that I'm willing to play, that I did play, is I took Western Kentucky plus 470 to win the Oxford Regional, where it's an SEC team. Here I would be going against Ole Miss. I like Western Kentucky at plus 470. If you look at this team, they've got good composition of someone who can make an upset and move through the region. They hit over 315 as a team. They're veteran players. There are a lot of JUCO guys on Western Kentucky. And Western Kentucky has Jack Bennett and Drew Whalen, 2 top-of-the-rotation arms. So I like them in that region. And one of the other reasons I like Western Kentucky is in that Oxford region, besides Ole Miss, you've got Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech was expected to host a region. There was going to be the Atlanta region for that ACC team that did so well during the regular season. That didn't happen. So now this team is a 2 seed. Maybe there's a little bit of a hangover. Maybe there's a little disappointment. Western Kentucky can hit. And at plus 470, I'm willing to back an offensive team in this situation to go against the SEC.
You know, Aaron, your breakdown on VSiN is fantastic. For those that haven't, and you've done a great job breaking it down right here, for those that haven't dipped their toe before, your best advice for anybody that's looking to get involved here and get involved in the College World Series.
So I would say this, Mark, because we talk about college baseball, and we're obviously going to compare it to Major League Baseball. And often when we handicap, particularly on these, and we're talking about advanced stats and things that go so deeper than batting average and home runs and things like that. I would tell you, if you're looking at college baseball, you look at the stats in terms of offense. This is very much an offensive game. And what I look at with the SEC in terms of statistics, what are these statistics for SEC teams? Because they are going against the best teams in the country. They're going against the best players in the country. So I'm going to say be a little leery of advanced statistics for teams, let's say like Southern Miss out of the Sun Belt or Coastal Carolina as well. Realize those stats came against teams in those conferences. I really weight heavily all the accomplishments the teams make in the SEC because they're the best teams, the best players, and very likely that's the majority of the field going into Omaha.
Aaron, always good to talk to you. We'll catch up again next week. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Good luck to you.
Go to VSiN.com. Check out Aaron's work and more. And by the way, looks like College Baseball Insiders and VSiN are teaming up. We're going to be distributing their regional guide. So make sure you check that out. All part of VSiN Pro subscription. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Less than $1.99. There's a bunch of great stuff up there, including Wes Reynolds Memorial Tournament and more.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, last couple of minutes here on the show. Marc Malusis, big thank you to you as you filled in today and for your time last week as well. We'll get the best bets momentarily, but we do have our latest, and you know what? Good for her. I will tell her, I'll have to give her compliments when she comes back. What has been now a daily segment. She has stuck to her guns, and she has given us pictures every day. Where in the world is Stormy Buonantony on her trip around the boot out in Europe? I am told that this latest location is Lake Como. So here is Stormy she's not enjoying a meal. That is a menu in front of her. But I would assume she is subsequently enjoying a meal after this picture is taken. I will ask a question to our crew in the back. Lake Como, also known as Lario, is a lake of glacial origin in what, I'm going to say, region, town of Italy. I would ask you guys this because it's a name that is near and dear to our heart. It is Lombardy, Italy. How about that? So try as she might, she can't escape Lombardy. All right, there we go. She's out there at the lake. Huh?
That's a good line. That's a
good pair.
Lake Como is beautiful.
You've been there?
I think I have been there. Yes, wow. I have been to Lake Como. I was there.
People on this show gone to Italy. I have not.
You got to go. You'd love it, man. Lake Como is awesome. It's like you go there. I think it's right near, like, Switzerland's right there. We took a bus tour about me and my two sisters like 20 years ago. And we went to 12 to 13 Italian cities for like 2.5 weeks. And it was fantastic. And Lake Como is beautiful. I think George Clooney lives in Lake Como.
That is, you are correct, because that is you. Producer Ortega said that as well to me when I was walking in the back during this commercial break. That is So apparently everybody's in Italy. Everybody knows that George Clooney lives at Lake Como. I had no idea that was the case. The only thing I know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Ortega, you're a film buff. You might know this. This is going to sound super nerdy. Episode 1, Phantom Menace, that was filmed in Italy, correct? Okay, thank you very much. The planet of Naboo in Star Wars is pretty much just Italy, so take that. That is the closest I've been. My dad got married in Italy to my stepmom, but I was not invited. I had to stay stateside because I was like 6 or something like that, and I guess they don't want to take me, so that's fine. But either way,
I didn't even know that. Phantom Menace was filmed in Italy? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like the whole every time they're at the Naboo and the castle or whatever the hell, wherever the woman lives. Yeah, that's Italy.
Oh, I had no idea. Look at that. Learn something.
See? There you go. Yep, learn something new every day. Yes, I am a nerd.
Terrible movie, but
I also just rewatched the movie like 2 weeks ago, so that's why. All right, with that, we head out to get our best bets in. Our best bets, of course, brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN, and we are introducing the $500 trifecta from G-Bank, First Bet, and VSiN. All you need to do is open a G-Bank Visa Signature credit card. In the first 90 days, deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet to trigger the $500 trifecta. You'll receive $200 in cashback rewards on your G-Bank Visa Signature credit card. First Bet will give you a $100 deposit match, and then VSiN completes the trifecta with a free VSiN Pro subscription through August 31st. It's $200 value. It's the $500 trifecta from G-Bank, First Bet, and VSiN. Head to VSiN.com/GBank. That is VSiN.com/GBank. This one-time promotion is limited to customers opening an account in response to this offer. It will not apply to requests to convert existing accounts. Apply today. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, best bets for me, only one in the game tonight in the Western Conference Finals. Mark, we didn't really get to a ton of player prop angles, so it's a good time to expand on it. I went under 14.5 points and rebounds for Isaiah Hartenstein tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think that Mark Daigneault discovered a little something here in this last game that they played. If you noticed, at halftime, despite starting the game, Hartenstein did not come out to start the second half. And in fact, he was largely absent from the second half of Game 4. And that was because the Timberwolves elected to go a little bit smaller. In his place, they started Alex Caruso in the second half. His minutes in the second half, I think, were just like about 1 or 2. He ended up with just 16 for the game. I think that they have discovered here that they are better when they have a lone big out there as opposed to both of them on the floor. Their offense really suffers when it's both Holmgren and Hartenstein. I think the other is, if you look at the two, much higher upside on offense when it's Holmgren instead of Hartenstein, because Hartenstein just doesn't space the floor. He clogs it up a little bit. There's always a guy in the driving space if you're Shea. You can play off Hartenstein if he's out on the perimeter. If he's in the dunker spot, he just clogs up the middle area. You just need more space for Shea and these other guys to operate. And I think Hartenstein's going to be he's going to get the short end of the stick. Just 16 minutes in this last game, and I think that we are going to see those minutes dwindle. And if I'm going to get under 14.5 points and rebounds, which is available over at MGM, thought that was a play worth making. So only thing for me here, points and rebounds under 14.5 for one Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to give you a pick on the side, and I got a player prop for you, John, and I'm going to go with the Thunder. I'm going to lay the 8.5. You went through it before earlier on the show in terms of the splits between Oklahoma City home and away. We've talked about Minnesota's bench scoring and their splits home and away. The T-Wolves, obviously, tremendous Game 3 performance, could have won Game 4, but didn't. The Thunder defensively have been significantly better at home. I don't think Minnesota, and I don't think there's that secondary guy that's going to go with Anthony Edwards. And I think Edwards is going to go out there and try and do everything he can to put the Timberwolves on his back tonight. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And I think Oklahoma City is going to know that defensively as well tonight. The Thunder have an opportunity to close it out. They've been significantly more dominant at home. Not even close to what they've been on the road. I'm going to take Oklahoma City. I'm going to lay the 8.5 in a potential closeout game against Minnesota. And with that being said, I'm going to take their best player, SGA. I know people get on him, foul merchant, and going to the free throw line and everything like that. We get similar conversations looking at Jalen Brunson with the New York Knicks and everything and flopping, whatever it might be. He's going to get calls. You know why? He's aggressive, and he goes to the rim. And sometimes the victor go the spoils. I've heard coaches talk about that all the time. You get the more aggressive team gets more rewarded. You know what SGA is? He's aggressive, and he knows how to go out there and play angles. So his number's sitting at a high 32.5. If you like Oklahoma City tonight and you like them laying the 8.5 for argument's sake, how do you not think that the MVP of the league is not going to go out there and have himself a game at home against Minnesota? I think he does. I'm going to take SGA over 32.5 points. I'm going to take Oklahoma City laying the 8.5.
Did you have anything in the Eastern Conference Finals in hockey tonight?
Yeah, I do. I think the Canes are going to make this interesting. I do. And I think Florida's eventually going to, close it out. I think we're going to get a rematch between Florida and Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final. And there was news coming out of Edmonton today that Zach Hyman had surgery. He's going to be lost for the rest of the postseason. Their head coach, Knobloch, made that announcement, but they lead that series 3-1. I'm going to take the Canes. I think that was a big mental hurdle. They had this ridiculous losing streak in the Eastern Conference Finals where they couldn't win a game. It's more to do with the injuries for the Florida Panthers. And I know there was some positive news at the morning skate. Let's see if some of those guys are able to give it a go and come back. Sam Bennett, others, Mikkola, their defenseman, who's basically, turned into a modern day Victor Hedman so far in these playoffs for Florida and the Panthers. I don't know if I necessarily think they're all going to be able to give it a go tonight. Carolina's home. I think they finally won a game. I don't think they're coming back and winning this series by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're going to make the Florida Panthers sweat a little bit. I'm going to take Carolina at home -102 to force a Game 6, stave off elimination once again.
All right. With that, I did want to ask you a question. We can get on. We'll probably have more on this on Money Moves throughout the week. It is a high probability that we are going to have Thunder Pacers in the NBA Finals. I, for one, am geeked for that. I think this should be a great series. Offense versus defense should be absolutely tremendous. We do have Finals series prices that are up, Mark, for all of the potential series, we should note. So if you think the Knicks can come back and you think the Timberwolves can come back, we have prices for all of them. But if I say to you, the Oklahoma City Thunder are minus 525 in a series against the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. How does that number sound to you? Minus 525.
That seems too much to me.
I would tend to agree.
Too much?
I thought the price was going to be about minus 400 or so. So like more of like an 80-20 as opposed to this is more like 85-ish. So I am somewhat surprised that it is that high.
I think it's a little high. I mean, listen, I think the Thunder is going to take a lot to beat them, and I agree with you. I don't know if it'd light up America from interest. I think they'd kind of take a wait and see approach, but from a handicapper basketball perspective, I think it's a fascinating series when you look at it in terms of who wins out, especially when you look at the Thunder splits home and away and what Indiana has been able to do the past couple postseasons. But they deserve to be a favorite. I wouldn't have them that big of a favorite. I'm with you. I was thinking like minus 375, minus 400 initially when you were throwing that out there before I even ever had taken a look at the odds.
How about this? It's like they're testing me. Minus 525 the Thunder are against the Pacers in a projected final series. Minus 500 against the New York Knicks. So, again, Knicks, slightly better rated team than the Indiana Pacers. I don't know if I buy it. All right, Marc, appreciate it, man. That was an awesome, great couple of days. Thank you very much.
You got it. Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Yep. Marc Malusis. Coming up next, prop points for the next hour. The boys will get you ready for a prop perspective. Hopefully they agree with me on Isaiah Hartenstein. Make it rain following that, and then follow the money for 3 hours, 4 to 7 here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. We'll see you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.